Okay, so today we are discussing the viral, very exciting launch from e.l.f., their new Camo Powder Foundation. Now, they have the, Camo CC Cream, which unfortunately I was not a very big fan of. I ended up actually decluttering it. Number one, I had the wrong shade, but number two, it just did not work well for my skin. They have the Camo Concealer. They have the hydrating concealer as well, which I actually do like the hydrating concealer. Not so much a fan of the regular concealer. It's a little too drying for me. But when they released the powder foundation, I really wanted to give this a try. So I ended up picking this up in the shade 150C. Fair, obviously. There actually is a lighter, a lighter shade that is still cool. I think it's like 125. They did not have that available on, I believe, where did I get this? At Ulta. That is only available on the e.l.f. website. Let's read this. It says, camouflage imperfections and even out skin tone with this primer-infused, talc-free foundation. The lightweight powder is finely milled to provide long-lasting and buildable coverage for an airbrushed finish. Now, it does include a sponge that you can use to apply this. I'm just not a fan of the sponge. I never even bothered using this sponge. What I actually enjoy using applying powder foundation is this brush from Smashbox. It has this kind of a thicker section in the middle and then stippling brush on the outside. So for me, I will generally tap it into the powder foundation and then swirl it on, and it just creates a really nice application. I actually got this pretty cheaply at TJ Maxx when it was there some time ago when I originally found it. However, I am going to be making a video comparing the e.l.f. with 3 other powder foundations. And for that video, I did pick up the e.l.f. Complexion Duo Brush, which is what Juicy Jazz used in her video with this, and she said it was an excellent combination. So since this brush is more readily available, I am going to be using it, and we'll see how it does with powder foundation. But for this video, I actually filmed this a little while back. I just never had time to do the intro. So I'm going to show you the application of it, a wear test, and then the end of the day results will be from the day I wore this. But quickly before we jump into that, I did want to tell you I am wearing it today, if that gives you any hint as to how it performed or my thoughts on it. I actually have it on right now. So let me take you back to that day and I will show you how I applied the makeup. Alright, so starting this day, I went ahead and did my eye makeup, and I'm going to put all of my liquid products on before I put on the powder foundation. So I'm starting with my NYX Bear With Me Serum Concealer, which has been one of my absolute favorite concealers to date. One of my most favorites is the ColourPop Pretty Fresh, and the NYX Serum is right at that level, if not just a little bit above it. It's just a really, really nice concealer. So like I said, I'm going to go ahead and apply my concealer. I am going to bring it down onto my cheeks because I do want just a little bit of extra coverage over the redness that I typically have on my cheeks. And I'm just going to blend that out all over. So now I'm going to go ahead and do a cream blush. This is the NYX Sweet Cheeks blush. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that and blend it out prior to putting on powder. So when I originally applied the e.l.f. powder foundation, I did want to try it with another brush from NYX compared to, like I said, the Smashbox one that I typically use. However, I was not a real fan of the NYX brush. It just didn't give the same blending as my Smashbox. So for me, for that day, I did go ahead and switch to the Smashbox brush, and that has been my preferred method until we test out this new Complexion Duo brush from e.l.f. So here's what my face is looking like before I finish putting on my bronzer and everything like that. Honestly, I was a little afraid of the color at first. I thought it was going to be off or a little too dark, but honestly it seems to be working just fine. It has very nicely covered evenly, looks nice between my eyebrows, not too heavy, not too thick, and is really giving me a nice overall coverage. So here's my check-in. I have now had this on for about 4 hours. Please excuse the eyeshadow, but honestly, my face looks nice. But the coverage is still there. It looks nice and even across my skin. I do notice that it looks a little bit heavier on the side where I went in with the NYX brush than on the side where I used the Smashbox brush. And also, please excuse some of the roughness of my skin. I just started using retinoid, so my skin is looking like I've started using retinoid. But so far, it is looking nice, and I will check back in with you at the end of the day. Okay, 5 o'clock p.m. We're going to do a quick check-in here. I'm going to try to do one more check-in before I get a shower tonight, but if I don't, I have had this on since 8, so 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I have had this on for 9 hours now. So let me grab it out here. Again, we are working with Fair 150C. So when I initially applied it, the only real issue that I had with it is I feel like it is just a tinge too dark, but it really doesn't look bad. I just think I would have preferred the lighter shade in the cool section. And honestly though, even though it's cool, I do feel that it had a little bit of a yellow undertone, which I was kind of shocked by. I mean, even when you look at it, like it does, I mean, it is a little bit yellowy, which I wouldn't have thought that the cool powder would have had. But again, I don't think it looks bad by any means. I don't think it looks drastically different from my natural skin tone. I definitely prefer it with this brush. This is a really nice brush. If you happen to find this, I found this on sale at TJ Maxx. This is from Smashbox, their powder foundation brush, because it has like this full kind of dense section in the middle, but then a stippling brush on the outside, and it really does a nice job of applying it and buffing it out, whereas this side I kind of felt was a little bit too thick. I feel like it definitely blended better on this side with this brush. As far as my primer is concerned, the only thing I put on underneath of it is my IT Confidence in a Cream. I didn't put any other products. I just made sure I was well moisturized. Look at my eyes. I just made sure I was well moisturized, and honestly, it's worn well. And I have been hot, like even on my nose, even though it broke down a little bit right there, it's not so broken down that it is extremely noticeable. Like it has worn off well, if that makes sense, because sometimes, especially with some liquid foundations, if it wears off on my nose, you can really see like, oh look, that's where her foundation has broken apart. But I don't feel that that is the case with this powder foundation. It looks nice in between my eyebrows. I mean, honestly, it just looks nice for a powder foundation. My other products blended very nicely on top. I mean, I really have no complaints. This held up through church. It held up through going out to eat and a little bit of shopping. It wore really well. So from the perspective of somebody who does have dry skin, this did nicely. Just make sure that your skin is hydrated. If you are oily, I can't attest to how it would wear for that specific skin type, but a powder foundation working well on someone with dry skin is usually a big, a tall order to fill, if you know what I mean. So that was my wear test on the first initial day. It looked a little rough in the truck in that lighting, but again, I had used 2 different brushes and I could tell the difference. Now today I am wearing this over top of the Maybelline 4-in-1 Glow Makeup Perfector and the e.l.f. Flawless Brightening Concealer as my base, and then I just went over with the e.l.f. brush with the Smashbox. The e.l.f. powder with the Smashbox brush. And I think it looks really nice. Definitely go in lightly and build where you need, because I think that this powder can get a little built up if you're not careful as to how you originally apply it. But ever since that day of initially testing it, if I want something that I want to use powder foundation, this is what I've been using, and I've really been enjoying it. Like I said, the color in here looks a little peachy, and that is another reason why I try to go in lightly with it, because I don't want too much pigment buildup in one area. But really, I don't think it is discoloring or too off in shade to not work for me. I do have dry skin, so the fact that this doesn't look dry or cakey or overwhelming is always a plus for someone with dry skin. And I wouldn't recommend using this sponge. It just, I don't know, it just lays it down so thickly and then kind of doesn't really want to blend it. Like, it'll lay down the product okay, but then it doesn't really blend out very well. I definitely would prefer this going in with a brush. Let's see. Yeah. Can see how much more just evenly dispersed that is? I definitely recommend going in with this with some type of brush, and we'll test out this brush more so when we do the foundation video comparison. In that video, I'm going to be doing the NYX I'm going to be comparing the e.l.f. with the NYX Stay Matte But Not Flat, the L'Oreal Infallible, and the CoverGirl powder foundation, that Superstay powder foundation that's actually in my purse right now. But my overall thoughts are, this is a really nice powder foundation. I really enjoy that they have such a wide shade range. And even though it's kind of hard to pick the shade range though, because even though this is cool, it does land on that kind of peachier yellow side, which you would think a cool toned one would have more of that pink undertone. But that's not necessarily true. So that probably will be the biggest issue, is picking the right shade and undertone based off of swatches. And like right now, I know on e.l.f.'s website, they are all sold out and there's very few shades available on Ulta. So your best bet with this may be to go in the store and look at it, but even then it's going to be in a package. So I would say that's going to be the biggest issue. But as far as wear, it honestly looks really nice. It doesn't break down very easily, because like that day that I wore it originally, I had went out to eat with my dad and my sister. We went to Ulta, we went to Menards, and by the end of that, my face still looked really nice. So very nice product. I think it'll work well. You just may have trouble finding the right shade and undertone. So that's my review on the e.l.f. Camo Powder Foundation. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you will like and subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.